Good morning, everyone. Lots going on as usual. Today is Friday, October 3rd. It's not September, it's October 3rd. And I'm back on Rumble Studio and things seem to be going okay, although I'm getting errors popping up, but it looks like I've got viewers and it looks like I'm connected. So if you could see me, let me know in the chat. That would be wonderful. I'm not connected to Rumble, I don't think. It doesn't look like I'm connected. Oh yeah, maybe I am connected to Rumble. Anyway, it's kind of working. I'm recording, so if it doesn't work ultimately, I'll put it up as usual. So we'll get into it. Money for new government agencies, but no money for Remembrance Day wreaths. Yes, welcome to Canada, where the past doesn't matter and the only thing that matters is your current ideology. How will the NWO One World government roll out? I've got a theory and I'll show you early in the show today. Also, Metro is out of food. Again, I'll show you early in the show today because it's a bit of a mystery and I love a good mystery. Alberta update with Glenn Beck. So this is about, there was a visit down to Alberta. Thanks for confirming, guys, on YouTube. There's a visit from Alberta down to the United States to talk to the U.S. administration about the 51st state and or recognizing Alberta as an independent entity from Canada if a referendum was held and certain conditions were met. And apparently the Trump administration is quite open to that. So that is an interesting update as well. And I'm still skeptical that they're going to do it. I'm still skeptical that they're going to do it in the right way. I think that if they have any involvement at all from the provincial government or the federal government, we are going to see a situation where they are rigging the election is the only way I can describe it. So unfortunately, I think that's true. I hope I'm wrong about that. And Maxime Bernier had a First Nations chief call the police on him for one of his posts about Truth and Reconciliation Day, Lies and Humiliation Day, really. So there's lots to get to. Let's get to it. First, we got to talk about Truth and Reconciliation Day and the fallout from Truth and Reconciliation Day. Dallas Brody is responding to her own trailer. I showed you the trailer the other day. It says official trailer making a killing, reconciliation, genocide, and plunder in Canada. Yep. A 1BC caucus documentary film. And so they made this film and it talks about all the money and the incentives for why do all of this. And there are a lot of them. Dallas Brody says every child does matter, and so does the truth. And she's standing on an image here. It says every child matters, and it's a banner type deal, like it's a highway sign or something like that. And she's standing in front of that with a sign that says zero bodies. Okay. And Maxime Bernier says, we got this message from a journalist asking for a statement about AFN National Chief Cindy FN. I'm not sure her name actually. Hold on. Chief, what's her name? Oh, I thought I had one with the actual name of the person. Apologies. Reporting to me. Oh, maybe it's right here. Chief Cindy. I can't read the whole thing. Cindy Wu. Reporting me to the police for hate crime following my tweet 2 days ago. What do you think my statement should be? And it says, good afternoon, Team PPC. We are looking for a statement from the PPC leader in regards to the statement made from Maxime Bernier on September 30th. And it's a Facebook link, but Maxime Bernier highlights it here. He says on this National Day for Truth and Reconciliation, let's remember that no bodies were found, that the residential school genocide is a hoax, that the reconciliation requires an end to the BS, the victim mentality, the fake white guilt, and the grifting based on it. And so since the post, AFN National Chief Cindy Woodhouse Neepinick, I'm getting that wrong, says that she is reporting Bernier to the police for a hate crime. What is Bernier and the PPC's response to this? So he says, what do you think my response should be? And some people say you should send this that says there have been no bodies recovered. Like, I'm factually correct about my tweet. There is no hate here. It's just facts, just the facts, baby. Mandy is another person. Mandy is an MP, and she is the Minister of Indigenous Services. And she says, here's my open letter to Maxime Bernier. She says, Dear Mr. Bernier, I am writing to you with profound disappointment and sadness. Okay, I just want to preempt this. This is a struggle session. You are supposed to have to fight for your position or something like that. But this is a struggle session, and everybody's going to say you're wrong. But Maxime Bernier is not incorrect in what he's asserting, and I think that's backed up by the facts. And all of these people are saying, you are a fly in our ointment. You are not falling in line with what the cult wants you to fall in line in. It's like he's a ex-Scientologist, and he's saying, this whole Xenu stuff's it's a little winky, right? So they're following him in airports. They're saying, "We denounce you, sir," and it's just a way to bully people into compliance. It's a struggle session. That's what it is. That's why I'm showing it to you. Okay, I'm not showing it to you because I think she's right. I'm showing it to you because I think that this is bonkers, because it's not based in reality. It's based in feelings, and that's crazy. It's crazy. I'm writing to you with profound disappointment and sadness. As the daughter and granddaughter of residential school survivors, I was deeply pained to see the statement you chose to make, particularly on the day that weighs so heavily on so many survivors, families, and communities across this country. This day was just created in 2019, and Justin Trudeau went surfing on the first one. So yeah, it's super somber, right? Sure. I don't like having a national day of mourning declared. I think that we should be happy. Like we should be celebrating our victories, not wallowing in our defeats, not wallowing in negative things that are made up. So back to this. Your words disregard the lived experiences of thousands of children and families whose lives were shattered by the residential school system. This is a one-sided framing that ignores the true reality, which is much more detailed, much more minutia, much more like there are kids who were surrendered by their families. There are kids who were rescued and saved by these residential schools. The residential schools themselves were run by the Catholic Church until 1970, I think it is, and John Chrétien took over. Did John Chrétien oversee a genocide for 30 years while he was the Indian minister, and then all the way up till he was the prime minister in the 90s? Is that what happened? If that's what happened, why isn't he in handcuffs? Why are we saying, Maxime Bernier, how dare you point out the inconsistencies in our story? Because there are inconsistencies in the story, least of which they're making assertions like there are 215 dead kids, and they don't have a single shred of evidence to back it up other than ground penetrating radar, which is not conclusive. Dig it up. Is it a body? Is it not? It's not a body. Okay, so what is it? There have not been any bodies recovered, and that's the point that Maxime Bernier was trying to make. And this person's saying, lived experience. That's not it. That's not it. The facts fly in the face of your lived experience. Your lived experience may be one thing, but the facts may be something else, right? The macro of the situation, the collective truth may be different than your truth, right? Back to this. I was deeply pained to see the statement you chose to make, particularly on a day. The day means nothing. The day was just declared by an idiot prime minister to wedge us, and that's what it's doing. Anyway, your words disregard the lived experience of thousands of children and families in Atibi, Bay James, Nunavik, EO, residential schools left deep scars, the loss of language and culture, the pain of separation, and the intergenerational trauma that continues to shape First Nations and Inuit communities today. I think, for example, of my late grandmother's story. She became gravely ill with the tuberculosis while at school alongside her sister. My grandmother survived. Her sister did not. So who's responsible for the tuberculosis? How many people died of tuberculosis that year? Her remains were never returned. Her parents were never informed of her passing. It was my grandmother, still only a child, who had to carry the news home to her family months later when she returned by plane. Also, people decry the loss of language and culture when it's attributed to First Nations. But if we lose language and culture of white Canadians, that's just fine. That's acceptable. That's multiculturalism. Why don't you accept that, you bigot? Isn't that weird? Don't you think that's strange, right? Like if you walk into a Walmart and you just hear Punjabi and you think, this is weird, aren't I in Canada? Like, shouldn't we hear Canadian in a Canadian Walmart? And if you get upset about that, well, now you're intolerant. But if you're upset about white people taking First Nations language, how dare you, right? Like that's okay. That's all right to be upset about that. But it's not all right to be upset about having our language disrupted now in our country in the modern time now. Having our population replaced, totally fine. Don't acknowledge it. Don't pay any attention to it at all. But having their population replaced and or language displaced or anything like that, that's a crime. Do you see the hypocrisy? Right? It's strange. It's a weird kind of hypocrisy. Anyway, I find that strange. Blaming colonialism for, I mean, maybe not the death, but the not telling her parents. Maybe her parents couldn't, it's not like they could email. It's not like they could send, maybe they could send a letter, but are we sure that there was an address to send the letter to? Because times were tough in the 1920s, right? 1930s, 1950s even, right? So like, no guarantees. Back to this. This is not an isolated story. Many children never returned home from residential schools. Some families continue to search for the resting places of their loved ones. I'd love to hear one single story of this. Denied even the dignity of a burial marker, including in my own community. To dismiss this history is to inflict fresh wounds on those still living with the consequences. I guess they shouldn't follow him on social media then. Like, the reality, Mr. Bernier, is that had you been born Indigenous, you yourself may very well have been among the children forced into these schools. You would have been a survivor, or perhaps one of those who never returned. That is the truth we cannot turn away from. As a former member of parliament, you know the responsibility that comes with public words. To use that platform to minimize or deny this reality is harmful, not only to survivors and their families, but to all Canadians who are striving for reconciliation and healing. I denounce your remarks in the strongest possible terms. They show neither humility nor respect, nor the honesty required of anyone who claims to speak for Canadians. I feel sorry for you in feeling comfortable harming so many. It's truly a shame. Words don't harm. I'm sorry. Like, not in the way that bullet harmed Charlie Kirk. Words don't hurt like that, right? Not in the way the Antifa people hurt Andy Kim, right? Or Andy No, excuse me, not Andy Kim. Andy No. Words don't hurt like that. And that's the point. So you're supposed to use words instead of using violence. And this person's saying, I denounce your use of words, Mr. Bernier. And this person is ideologically captured through framing. And I don't believe her frame. It's not true. It omits a whole bunch of maybe uncomfortable for them realities. And so denouncing Bernier for his assertion of the facts is irresponsible of this sitting MP. Terrible. And minister, right? Awful. Here is Lindsay Shepherd. She was fired by John Rustad. This is a 15-minute video. I just wanted to include it today because I think it's important. It is interesting what happened to her. She recorded the HR call. She recorded, she gives a really robust kind of understanding of what happened and why she thinks it was kind of not justified. And, more to come. I think that it's interesting. Check it out. It's certainly an interesting little bit of Canadian like modern Canadian, we're just going to screw you over because you said the wrong thing. And it feels like COVID again, right? It feels like somebody said, hey, that vaccine might not be safe. It's like, you lost your job, buddy. That's it. Done. You're done. And we're calling the police because you implied that you maybe made somebody less confident about vaccines. So that's it. You're done. Right. And so that's, I just think that's pretty wild, and it shouldn't be allowed to continue. I would play a bit of it, but it's so to get a good chunk done, we'd have to play 5 minutes, and I just don't have 5 minutes. We're trying to get the free show done here, and I want to get to this one, and I think we're going to. This is the Metro out of food. Frances Widdowson the other day was at the University of Winnipeg, and her cameraman, Page Wizard Games, was attacked, and this is part of that. This is a professor coming up to them and telling them, Frances Widdowson and Page Wizard Games, Daniel, that they'll be attacked if they dare to record the people that they're walking into. And she attacks Daniel while they're talking, and she grabs the camera. This is her grabbing the camera and telling him,
it's not happening.
Everything is a hoax. I had to sit down, being the oldest of 5 kids, and hear my dad's story.
So she is trying to intimidate them, and then ultimately they get away from her, and they do get punched, and so the warnings were less warnings, more threat, I think. So not great, and we are in a situation where people are feeling emboldened, and even if you don't fall in line with what we're saying is true, then we're going to violently harm you until you say, okay, or something to that effect. And I think that that's not correct, because when you lose in the arena of ideas, that's when you resort to violence, right? And that's what we're seeing, unfortunately. And that doesn't make us better. That makes us, start getting stronger weapons, right? George says, Antifa thugs attacked Nick Sorter in Portland. He stood his ground and defended himself, and somehow he's the one who got arrested. A journalist on the scene said, looked like Nick Sorter got jumped. Portland liaison officers stand nearby and watch. This is insane. Free Nick Sorter, and shame on these police officers. So he does get jumped, and he's arrested. And
Mark's a veteran. He's got it.
I thought there was going to be actually a part where he gets jumped, but he got jumped and then he got arrested. And here he is getting arrested. And he was just released this morning. So pretty crazy stuff. So they're arresting the journalist and they let the Antifa kids who attacked him go. And that's pretty crazy stuff. If you ask me, it's not about justice. It's about control. And they don't want people to be able to see who's disrupting. Because I think these are paid for networks. I think these networks are being paid for. I think there are not fewer and fewer people who want to take part. But as Trump ramps up his war on this domestic disturbance that's going on, this domestic terror group that he's declared Antifa to be, I think that's going to impact Canada. I really do. Here's one of the weirdest mysteries, and I don't think this is necessarily the biggest story in Canada, but you're 9 missed meals away from being a completely different person who has completely different morals. And if somebody's got a steak and you haven't had a steak in 9 meals or something like that, buddy, now there's a soup on, right? Like now the game's afoot. And so food could become a problem in short order. And I'm not saying that food is going to be scarce in short order, but if that does happen, this could be a big story quickly. Know what I'm saying? So for some reason, and nobody knows why, nobody's talking about it, not the union, not other places in Metro, nobody's talking about it. But apparently one of the biggest warehouses, Metro warehouses in Ontario, has been closed for 3 weeks, 21 days. And so yeah, control the food, control the people. That's absolutely true. So mysterious closure of a Metro warehouse. This is the only mainstream media that's reporting on this. The Food Professor is the one who shared this morning, and it's in French language, but we'll talk about it in English. And it's one of those things, man. Gets those almonds activated, if you know what I mean. Marie says, Marie is the author of the article. She says, what exactly is happening at Metro's massive frozen food distribution center in Toronto? Mystery. All that is certain is that the key installation has been shut down for 3 weeks, and the first photos of empty displays have started to appear on social networks. 3 weeks? How long is food good? Metro warned its shareholders on September 15th that its distribution center has been shut down for 3 days due to a problem in the refrigeration system. An investigation was then underway to determine the exact cause. Since then, it's been silent and tight-lipped. The grocer's management refuses to give further details on the situation. We limit ourselves to saying that there is nothing new or more to say. The secrecy surrounding the situation gives free rein to all theories. How come there are no communications from Metro after 20 days? This is not normal. I find it very special. Food expert Professor Sylvain Charlebois told me when I called him about this subject, which piqued his curiosity as much as mine. He brought the subject to X, but that didn't loosen tongues. One customer, however, posted a photo of a bare display specifying that an employee had told her, quote, in a low voice, that they have all kinds of problems with everything from baked goods to frozen foods. Croissants cooked on site arrive frozen like some breads. That seems like a contradictory statement. So here's the empty display. So it's a freezer display and it's just empty, but there's still lots of food everywhere else, right? But the empty display. Okay. Obviously, Metro expected something major from the start since shareholders were warned of an operational issue, which is unusual. They were even told that the closure of the distribution center would have financial impacts on the fourth quarter, ended after the end of September and the first quarter of the next financial year. We therefore knew that this would not be resolved in 48 hours by a team of plumbers, electricians, or automation experts. The warehouse is, however, quite new. Functional since 2022, it costs the Quebec grocer $510 million, according to a report from the Toronto Star, spanning 200,000 square feet. The grey and red building is located in Etobicoke, a neighborhood west of downtown Toronto. In Ontario, the Unifor union that represents warehouse workers is hardly more talkative. They say they don't know the cause of the closure, which seems quite surprising after all this time. The employees were reportedly deployed to another facility. Quote, I can confirm that none of our members are experiencing any loss of wages or hours as a result of the shutdown operations. Spokesman Paul White wrote the other day. Metro warehouses in Quebec, no one knows what's happening in Ontario, according to union sources. So mystery and mystery and mystery. And there's a little bit more to the article, but we don't know what's going on, and we're not really sure. And I'm sure it'll be fine. But maybe, who knows? Who knows? Not me. Colonel Towner, let's get into the more hard politics. Oh, I should say goodbye to the stream. I want to do this one and the next one, and then we'll go. So Colonel Towner says, apparently all NATO countries, well, he's responding to Vigard News, which is reporting Munich airport shuts down after several unknown drones appeared over it, 15 flights canceled, and 17 more diverted. So pretty soon we're going to have anti-drone controls over airports. Apparently, airports can't control drones in their flight space. That's interesting. Colonel Towner says apparently all NATO countries are planned to have drones appear mysteriously, followed by an accusation that it was all from Russia to move to World War III, and we're all supposed to not to notice what's going on. You're also supposed to believe that none of the first world countries have any ability to detect drones, track them, or do anything about them. Meanwhile, they're wasting your money on illegal aliens from the third world who rape and murder you. We aren't in 1984. We're in Mad Max. Yeah, just a little bit. Just a little bit. I had kind of one of those situations where you see clearly how things could play out when I read this tweet this morning. So I want to read this to you, and then I'll read you what I think. Holly Doan says, cost of Prime Minister's promised increase in defense spending, maybe for anti-drone related things? No, not really. Detailed soon. He's going to buy sleeping bags. That's all. That's what we need in Canada. Expenses are on top. So the defense spending expenses are on top of an estimated $68.5 billion deficit. So that's a massive deficit and unbelievably jaw-dropping situation that we're in. And the budget's going to highlight even more spending. And I think that's the plan. I think that they're trying to bankrupt the West in order to justify an International Monetary Fund bailout. The International Monetary Fund bailout triggers things that happen, but chief among them, loss of sovereignty for the citizens because of the bailout, and the loss of and austerity. So we lose our sovereignty and we go into an austerity situation where we don't have control, and they're basically garnishing our wages, et cetera, et cetera. And then with all the climate stuff, we won't have control to even leverage our natural resources in order to get out of this economic trap we are being waltzed into by these bad policies. I don't think I put that all into my tweet, but I'll read my tweet because it's a little bit more concise than what I just said. I think the NDP will support this budget, even with all the bullshit spending in it. The math doesn't even matter. They're all globalists trying to bankrupt the country, or countries, Western countries. With bankruptcy comes International Monetary Fund bailouts. With bailouts comes austerity and loss of sovereignty, creating the perfect situation where the United Nations, WHO, and IMF are running Canada, and Canadians have no say. And I think that's the play. We walk into it and say, uh-oh, we're bankrupt. I guess we can't do anything about it. And we screw ourselves. And we close our eyes to this at our own peril. And that's enough out of me for the free stream. If you want the rest of the show, head over to CanadaPoly.com. I post it later. I've been really busy this week. I know I was trying to get it done last week, and I did try, but it didn't work out yet. But I'm working on it still. But if you want the whole show, head over to CanadaPoly.com. And if not, that's okay. We will catch you tomorrow. And for everybody else, I will continue on. Yes, I want to end the stream. Rumble Studio got an update that locked me out completely, but now it's all working. I think it looked like it worked anyway. I got chats and everything, so it seemed like it's good. Adamental Politics says, all my life I've been earning an income and contributing to EI, CPP, etc. Nobody gives me any handouts. I just get taxed to death for being productive. The end. So this is the story of most people, and it's the story of Canadians, and that's why we can't get ahead. We spend 50% of our earned money on taxes, which is insane. Mark Nixon says Canada is sitting on the biggest economic opportunity in our history, $600 billion investment, $1.2 trillion GDP boost. Enbridge CEO says it's clear liberals are blocking it with their anti-energy agenda. Canadians are struggling by design. So this guy, it's a 6-minute clip. We don't have time to listen to the whole 6 minutes, but he's basically saying we have all of this wonderful, wonderful product that we can sell, and the only reason we're not getting it out of the ground and selling it is because it's being blocked at the governmental level, and that's not good. And I think that plays into the plan I kind of laid out a few minutes ago. Here is Sean, and he says, another new government agency, and Prime Minister of Canada announces the government of Canada is focused on rebuilding, rearming, and reinvesting in Canadian armed forces. The new Defence Investment Agency will streamline defence procurement, create new jobs, strengthen our national security and defence partnerships with allies. And this guy says, Carney said he was going to trim government jobs. Seems like lateral transfer to me, how much is this costing us? Right, exactly. A lot. But it doesn't matter. The math doesn't matter. Globe Politics is announcing the same thing. Ottawa launches Defense Investment Agency to streamline procurement. And Ron says, what is this? Another federal agency? An agency just to buy stuff? It's a disturbing pattern Prime Minister Carney layers on new agencies on top of existing government bureaucracy. More money, more money. Why are we doing this? What's wrong with the existing system? So we've basically got unlimited money for agencies, all sorts of agencies, any kind of agencies you want. I even think I had another agency's tweet somewhere around here.